Aloha, beautiful beings, and welcome to another episode of the Yoni Havana podcast, where we explore consciousness, looking into how things work in the universe so we can enjoy life more and become more whole. Today's episode might be my favorite one so far, possibly because today's guest and I have a lot in common in terms of our line of work, values, lifestyle, and understanding of consciousness. His name is Carlos Duran, a spiritual guide with over a decade of experience in Amazonian plant medicine. In this episode, Carlos shares his journey from a challenging upbringing to helping people worldwide overcome mental and emotional struggles. He discusses the healing power of Colombian Ayahuasca, known as Yagé, the concept of life as a game of self-discovery, the importance of embracing the present moment to live a fully authentic and empowered life, and much more. Before we dive into this episode, I'd like to read to you a short testimonial from our last Men of Integrity retreat, which is a profound 4-day journey towards authentic manhood led by Michael Tierno and me, Yoni Havana. These retreats help men embrace integrity, heal past wounds, and build a supportive community. Here is a testimonial. One of the best weekends of healing, relaxing, and laughing I've ever experienced. The love, care, and thoughtfulness by the MOI team is unmatched and astonishing. Their genuine hearts and motives are exemplary and noteworthy. I'm proud to say I had the courage to explore this portion of my body and be open to medicine ceremonies. If you get the chance to be a part of a healing retreat, do it for your loved ones and do it for yourself. You deserve it. If the Men of Integrity retreats intrigue you, I encourage you to visit our website, moi.community. One more thing, if you're on a path of self-discovery and seeking a deeper connection, please check out our Rising Awareness sessions. Weekly sessions that I co-host with my mentor, Dr. Aubrey Degnan, who are ideal for those feeling stuck in personal growth, navigating inner work alone, seeking connection with like-minded individuals, or curious about enlightenment. Visit our website, arisingawareness.net, to learn more. Now, onto the show. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this soul-nourishing conversation with Carlos Duran. Aho. Carlos, thank you for coming onto the show. Welcome.
Hola, Yoni. A pleasure to be here, brother. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to connect with you, and I'm super excited that we get to have a first conversation in a recorded conversation, which is my favorite way to get to know people on the podcast.
Yeah, because then you go back and really look at what they were saying.
You know, and it's an opportunity for people to have really the most raw and real conversation, and not to have all those, a lot of times in the first conversation, there's so many pieces that I'm like, later on, I don't want to rehash them. I'm like, oh yeah, tell the audience what you told me later, earlier on the phone. Now we're getting like, this is it.
This is it.
Super
unreal,
cool,
brother.
Yeah, I've heard about you from a dear friend of mine, Lee. She's worked with you, and she had a lot of transformations happening. Sounds like a bunch of people that she knows, and I'd love to hear in your own words, how do you describe the work you're doing, your mission? Anything you'd like to share with our audience to set the tone for?
Bro, this is like the Blues Brothers. We're on a mission from God, and we're putting the band back together again. The band is humanity. We're bringing humanity back together again to be the essence that we're meant to be. Lee's a very dear person in my life. She came to Operation Purify, which is our veterans retreat, and had a massive transformation. And she joined the team to help us bring forward. The medicine that we work with is Yagé. This is the Colombian version of what's more commonly referred to as ayahuasca. And for us, in our culture, Yagé is one door of many spiritual doors that you can walk through to have an encounter with yourself, with creation and the creator. And for almost the last 13 years, this has been my study. This has been my path. And this has been my mission from God to share with others this amazing medicine that heals traumas of the mind, heals shames in the body, heals guilt of the heart, reunites you with yourself, reunites families, and brings us closer to living in love with self and others.
And you say Yagé is it a type of ayahuasca that grows? What is it exactly? Because I don't think I've heard of it.
So the grandparents explain that all forms of ayahuasca are different trails
Mm.
going up the same mountain, bringing you to the same point. It's that same encounter with self, creation, and creator. In different regions through the Amazon, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, just to name a few, there's different names, not just within the larger body of the country, but within the smaller regions and within the tribes. There's many names for this medicine that we call ayahuasca.
Mm.
Yahe is the name that is used in Colombia, and it is different than many other forms of ayahuasca. The leaf that we use is a different leaf. Um, we use the chagro, and the soil is different. And so the soil composition also impacts the structure, the molecular structure of the vine. While many other forms of ayahuasca are very visionary, and Yahe can be and is a visionary plant, it is mostly a purgative plant. It purges the mind, the body, and the spirit from the limiting beliefs, from the memories that don't serve us. To put it in modern terms, there's an amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score,
Mhm.
which uses modern scientific data to prove that inside our body we retain memories from impacts and traumas. When we look at epigenetics, which is just simply said the study of the DNA memory, right? It's the memory of one chromosome passed down to from one generation to another. Well, there's epigenetics in the spiritual body as well. We call it ancestral trauma or ancestral healing or the ancestral memory. So you in your body, Yoni, have the memory of your lifetime, this lifetime, but you also have the epigenetics, both spiritually and physically, of your ancestors. And so anything that was a trauma, from the woolly mammoth running over your great, 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 great uncle to, your grandmother being scared from a dog that might have bit her, that those impacts are stored within us. And what Yahe does, it purges the mind, the body, and the spirit of these traumas and these limiting beliefs so that we're free to fully be our divine essence in the here and now.
Would you say on that note that that helps liberate the ancestors themselves, their forms of energy?
Absolutely.
So I want to take that moment and let you know that this is my greatest mission ever since I was introduced to ayahuasca in 2018. And I came with just an open mind. I'm like, oh, I've heard about this actually on Aubrey Marcus podcast in 2016 and a different podcast back then, Warrior Poet. And ayahuasca called me. And nobody that I knew anything about it. Nothing. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna get to it. It was about 2.5 years after that I was in Peru in the Sacred Valley, and I got to participate in a few ceremonies. And in the last ceremony, and I surrendered the whole time, just let it, full surrender, physically, mentally, emotionally. The end of the last ceremony, everybody's celebrating, and this one I got the worst experience of my life physically. Emotionally, it was hard, but physically, it was just that it percolated so deep into the bottom of my heart, into my gut, and I started seeing these ancestral visions and realizing that I'm here to do ancestral work. I'm here to clear the bloodline, clear the spiritual line. Since then I've done a few ceremonies with different plants, and pretty much every time when I go deep and I've been upping my level of concentration to use my third eye to travel there into the DNA, into my body to find those knots and to start liberating them. Most recently, this is 2 weeks ago, actually, just about 2 weeks ago, and this podcast will come out in a few weeks from here. I was called to Iboga. I heard about Iboga. I don't really know much about it, but the way you speak about Yahe, with the purging and the liberation of the ancestral line, the DNA, all of that, the epigenetics speaks to me so much because I feel like this is my mission. This is one of my greatest missions. Is within my body to liberate so many ancestors and to liberate, of course, myself from these burdens that are embedded within me. I've been walking with them, ever since I was born and probably way, way before. in different formations. So I just wanted to throw this in because it's such a, to me, this is my deepest missions beyond servicing, being a service to my wife and my children and other people, to help them heal and grow. It starts with healing myself, my family, and my lineage. Every time I say a blessing on food, and every time I put intention into pretty much anything else.
God bless you, Johnny. That's very important work because we don't realize. See, I always, God's got jokes, right? But the punchline is always somewhere in nature, right? So if we would do like a little finger puppet show and we went like this, oh, we have like 5 different characters in the show. Here's the other one, But when you go like this, oh my God, it's just one character. It's just one hand. Okay.
Mhm.
And this is humanity, but the whole story of humanity from the very origin. So everything that we carry with us, everything that we're holding on to that we haven't been able to let go of, is impacting us. It's holding us back. It's creating drag. So when we hold on to the stories of slavery, we hold on to the stories of genocide. It's not that they didn't happen. They did happen. But we have to liberate ourselves from these pains. We have to forgive ourselves and whoever we're identifying as the persecutor, because we're all one hand. And then it's like the pinky getting angry at the thumb and wanting to cut it off over here. At the end of the day, when we do not heal the ancestral bloodline, when we do not release the ancestral trauma, we're only hurting the whole of ourself, the whole of humanity. One brotherhood, one sisterhood, one family.
It's so relevant these days. I'm from Israel, likely, and within the war that is happening right now, and we can call it war. There's a genocide, there's a war, there's all kinds of words to it. There's a pinky attacking the thumb, attacking the pinky, and etc. But let's just take those two fingers on two sides for for who knows how long. I don't really know. Let's say that the history doesn't matter.
Right.
But there are sides, especially my people, my family, the country, my homeland, who are looking to win, right? Or looking to win by obliterating another side, by revenging, without understanding. They're saying all they see all they see is just the tips. It's as if they have no idea there's that connection. Say the way they talk about one another. Um, is ridiculous. And I do 100% think we need to protect ourselves. We need to protect our families. There is a level of like, look, pinky and thumb. You can't come at me all the time. I have a boy and a girl.
There are boundaries.
Yeah, there are boundaries. You can't just bite and kick and all that. Like, we're gonna have to stop it right here. But they have to, understanding that one unit. And with plant medicine specifically, I've seen the greatest awakenings in people, uh, to see the truth, to know the truth, not to believe that there's a truth and to believe that God is this way and that way and to think and to imagine. It's actually to know deeper in their hearts and to start changing their behaviors, to coming, as you're saying, with more forgiveness, compassion. Most recently, there was sounds like an American soldier or troop that lit himself in fire in front of the Israeli embassy or a government building to make a point. It's been heartaching. It's been heartaching because we were generations of being abused and also the abuser and understanding. And at least from my perspective, I was an atheist at a very young age, living in Israel as a young teenager. And logically, like, if this is the shit sandwich we're living with, then there's no God. This doesn't make sense. I can't see anything, can't feel anything. I can call his name, nothing. Over time, became agnostic, and when I did ayahuasca, I met God. I was like, oh, here you go, son. You wanted to have an experience of pain. Great teacher. You wanted to be in abuse. You wanted to be an abuser. The whole thing, and it's all us. It's all just one family. To explain this to my former self with just words, that wouldn't jive.
No, we need the experience. You have to experience it for yourself. No one can explain to you what catching a wave feels like when you're surfing. No one can explain to you what the sound of silence is at the top of the Grand Canyon. You have to experience it for yourself, you know. And what we have to experience ultimately, why is the thumb and the pinky attacking each other? There's a wound there. There's a hurt there. And if we're able to forgive, we're able to grow. We're able to let go. And everything that's an attack, everything that is violence is rooted in a pain. And like you said, words aren't enough. We have to have that experience with the divine in order to really see the light within me, the light within you, and say, hey, you know what? There is a better way. There's a better way to establish the boundaries. There's a better way for our children to live in peace. But you have to have the experience, Yoni. I believe that 100%, just like you said.
Got a question for you. Something I've been learning and trying to get a better understanding. In at least from my personal view here, is there evil in consciousness, in the world, in the universe? Is there such a concept?
The grandparents would say yes, that there is evil. Evil is the opponent. Well, let's not go so far from Israel. Let's go to the Kabbalah. So in the Kabbalah, they call it the Satan, the opponent. And when you look at the yin and the yang, there's the dark and the light. Now, it's not the question of evil existing. That's not the question. The question is, what is evil? Where does it come from? So if the creator, the great spirit, mother and father of all life, created evil, it's for a purpose. It's for a reason. And then we were given free will, free choice, right? So we can choose to express ourselves in a spectrum that goes from abysmal darkness to blinding light. And we often travel in this spectrum. So evil does exist. Evil is an energy. Evil is a consciousness. But evil is also the darkness against which the light can reflect. Without the darkness, without the evil, this game has no opponent. And without an opponent, without a challenge, because it's a game. And without the challenger, there's no point to the game. There's no adversary. So all that evil is there to do is to give us an opportunity to make a better choice next time, to choose an evolution in our next opportunity. Many people think that evil is somehow something to be avoided. But when you look at the teachings of the elders, they say that a person can only express their greatest light as they are familiar and willing to accept the depths of their greatest darkness.
It's beautiful. It makes sense in my personal experience of allowing the lower vibrations of the universe, and then I feel like there's a rubber band effect as I increase the bandwidth of consciousness once I allowed and was willing to look at the uglier, subjectively uglier and tougher things to experience within the body. As you speak about the game, let's speak about life. Some people ask me the purpose of life. What is life? What are we here for? How do you describe that?
What is life? Life is a game, and we are the spiritual being having the human experience. And we have to quantify that and qualify it as well, as in life here on earth in this dimension, in this moment in time. Because the expanse of life is the multi-cosmos. That's a lot, right? Oh, life. But life here is experienced in a very unique way. Because according to the teachings that have been shared with me, if it's not the only place, it's one of the few places where you can experience things in 3D, where you can experience the physicality of it. You can experience the taste of the chocolate. You can experience the high of the Santa Maria. You can experience the cold of the water. So life on earth offers us a full spectrum of sensation and emotions that without the physical body would not be available to us. Life is an experience and an exploration in self. It is above all else, know thyself. And what is thyself? A direct, emanation, and expression of the divine creator. So to know yourself is to know God. To see God in another person, in another being, is to experience life at its fullest potential.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love the way you have with words. I have to say, it's absolutely gorgeous, and your lightness about it. You know, there's humor, there's fun, in the way you're explaining it.
You know, Yoni, I want to give thanks to my creator and divine being and my ancestors and my teachers, my grandparents, who have poured into me so much. And what you hear now is only a reflection of them. And, I do have my own little saying, though. I say, spirituality is hard work, so we have to laugh often. It's hard work, brother. So what do they call it? Gallows humor. You have to laugh, bro, because if not, you'll go crazy with this thing.
I'm in such total agreement, and I usually have the greatest laughs after ceremonies, sometimes during. As I like to think about it, as the pain really rises, it's when the liberation, also the joy and the tears. I'm like, this. It hurts so much that it's funny.
That's right.
It's so painful. It's so ridiculously painful that it's hilarious. It's just hilarious. And you just said, in terms of being in these bodies and to feel that sensations of the stuckness, trying to get out, and the resistance, and all of it, the whole shebang. And I'm very grateful. I call it a game too. I say, in my opinion, things are equally as important and not important. They're important for something in the game, and in the grand scheme of things, there's no rush to do anything in this lifetime, today, in a million and a bazillion years. It will happen when it happens.
That's right.
With the sense of free will, let's take that concept for a moment. Do you think that people can expedite their awakening, or there's divine timing and things are just happening to some extent from above?
You just said it. It could take you 3 gazillion years. It could take you 0.3 gazillion nanoseconds. It's your choice. You get to choose the experience. Remember, we're going to date ourselves a little bit because I haven't seen them anymore. Remember, back when we were kids, there were these books, like Choose Your Own Adventure books. And if you chose one way, you would go to a certain page, and if you chose, and this is life. We choose our own adventure, and the path to existential liberation. It's a choice. I get to choose. Now, sometimes it's hard, right? So I have a trigger, an emotional trigger. Let's call it jealousy, and I'm triggered. If I want to double down on my work, if I want to double down on my process through jealousy, right? I'll get through it faster. And that's going to hurt more, but I'll get there faster. If I don't, then it's going to take the time that it's going to take, that I choose for it to take. And the same thing with anger or loneliness or depression, absence, whatever it is, that irritation, judgment, shame, guilt, I can choose the speed at which I transmute, transform, and grow through that lesson. Curiously enough, though, every time we complete one lesson, another lesson appears. So that's another conversation.
So let's dive into that. As we complete one lesson, another one appears. Is what's your take there? Is there an end to the lessons, or at least a chapter or book for this planet?
That's a good question. In what's been shared with me from my teachers and my ancestors, that it is perpetual evolution. So in the Earth School, we have a journey that we take. When we graduate from the Earth School, from what I've been able to understand, and this is a little bit next level stuff, and I'll talk about what really matters, but let's get here for a second since we're here. Once we graduate the Earth School, then it's a on the job training. We then have to choose, where do we want to go work? Where in the cosmos do we want to then do our field studies? And we choose a planet, we choose a race, and we go there to support the evolution of that race. We go there to support the evolution of that planet. And then that also becomes a study. Because when we look at the history of the semi-gods, we see that they also were subject to emotions. They too were subject to downfalls, as we would quote, downfalls, meaning that they were a certain frequency, and because of their choices, they lowered that frequency through their experiences. Now, eventually, we can choose to, and again, this is what I've been taught. Whether it's real or not, take it or leave it. That's up to you. We can become one with the light again, where, as the Hindi would say, we return to supreme consciousness, and then we're fully absorbed back into the light. Or we can choose to continue to labor and to work in the other frequencies, in the other realms of existence. Now, why do I say that this is next level stuff and it's not as important? Is because I have found that humans we're curious kids, and that's really cool because we should go around life with the curiosity of a child. I believe that. However, if I'm here talking to you about next evolutionary phases of the soul and other missions and other works and other labors and other worlds, but I'm judging my neighbor, or I'm criticizing myself, or I'm still dealing with my own humanness, that's what's really important. Not these existential concepts and these grandiose teachings and understandings of higher conceptuals, but rather the here and now is what's important. How am I approaching my daily life? How do I treat myself? How do I treat my family, my neighbor? How do I treat nature? What are the words that come out of my mouth? What are the actions that I take with my body? Right? That's what's really important in the here and now, is that we live consecrated lives, that we live holy lives, meaning whole, complete lives, complete acceptance of ourselves and complete acceptance of others, because then we raise the entire vibration of our race, the human race. And that to me is what's really important now.
I love that. Why would you say it's important to raise the vibration?
Because war sucks. I mean, and if we don't, that's the outcome, right? I mean, people, we talk about these external, call them magazines, and we subscribe to them, right? We criticize, or some people criticize capitalism, but they subscribe to it. Because no matter what, you're using a credit card, you're buying something, you're going somewhere, you say, oh, well, this type of nation state sucks, but then you subscribe to a different type of nation state or a different type of governmental philosophy. Right. And we're always subscribing to things outside of ourselves, a philosophy, a way of life. And for the most part, all of these magazines are promoting the same thing: division and separation. You, us, and them, us and them. It's always us. There's always an us and a them. And as long as we do that, we're playing the game of the five fingers instead of the one hand. So to raise the vibration of humanity, where we come into a space, as my rabbi would say, Rabbi Shimon Sarfati, God rest his soul, he would say, Carlos, to tell people to love one another is a lot. Let us start with respect. Can we respect life? Because when we respect life, then we stop stealing from one another. And what is stealing? Stealing the sovereignty of another person, stealing their self-respect, stealing their free will to choose. We stop stealing the right to live and let live. So as we raise the vibration, we find that we can live as a single race in harmony with all of life. And bro, I think that would be an amazing thing, because then I get to stop doing this and I can hang out with my fiance, make babies, grow food, surf, and have fun.
Can you do that also simultaneously, or you think there's just the sheer amount of work to continue raising the vibration takes over?
There's pockets, but I enjoy the work. I love the work. I'm grateful for the work I do, and there's pockets where you get to, and the lifestyle that you build, because the lifestyle you build is also part of the vibration, right? So if you do build a lifestyle, and the work is different for everyone. right? There are people whose life is to do just exactly what I described and to inspire others to do that. And in mirroring that example, they create that vibration and they inspire others. And then there's people like you and I, Yoni, that we have to be in the trenches, right? We have to be with the walking sleepers
Mhm.
to bring them the light, to bring them the awakening. And everybody has an important mission to do in this world. Everybody has a unique mission to do. I certainly, you know, I have a farm and we grow food on this farm. And it is my lifestyle to be as close to the earth as possible. And so it is my understanding that some of us we're out there working, and our lifestyle, because my lifestyle has to be reflective of the message. It has to be healthy. It has to be happy, right? It has to produce joy for me and my family, or else I'm not getting the message somewhere along the line,
Mm.
right? And so everybody has but when we put on the office, when we get to the office, some people's office is to grow the food and be there 24/7 and reflect that back to the world. And then there's some people like us where our office is more on the front lines,
Mhm.
shaking things up a little bit.
I want to unpack a few things. I want to unpack just the point of war for a second, and raising the vibration, and the idea that maybe, and we can see if that even matters, that we're going in cycles. That there's, once again, we go back to evil, good, opponent, yin yang, etc. Well, we're creating the game to make the game interesting. We're gonna get back to kumbaya and the light, and then now what? We're eating grapes all the time. We're growing food. Everybody's hugging. It's like, kind of like, what? It's enough. Like, come slap me. This is kind of the descending again, right? So is there on that note, is this the time to raise the vibration? Personally, yes. I feel the intuition of, like, we're coming out of that, and we're like, it's been enough. It's enough. We've
Let's
slapped
take
one
a
another.
break.
Yeah, we've slapped one another. It's just enough. Enough. I'm ready for more hugs than slaps. But perhaps, yeah, we get to the point. It's like, we've been hugging for too long. It's been sunny. The fruit is just so delicious. Like, the sensations are monotone in that way, and I'm looking for a thrill. And I'm thinking about some people in war and why they get into that. There's a thrill to it. There's like, oh, I might get killed today. Oh, I killed somebody. I'm gonna abuse somebody. It's just like that feeling of the darkness that comes in. And so I'm wondering, what's your take there?
Yeah.
Is humanity, are they ready to go, or they're like, let's keep going for a little bit longer here, because we're not done kicking one another.
It's a split decision. Um, I believe, I feel that the momentum is towards the evolution, towards harmony. And there are those that are still like, yeah, not yet. Let's do this a little while longer.
Mhm.
And so and I think that's part of the reason why we're not there instantaneously, right? It's an awakening. And so, just like in from a deep slumber, the body awakens slowly. And some of us in the body woke up a long time ago, and they reached out to other parts of us that are woken up now, and then we're reaching out to other parts that are waking up later.
Mm.
So in the here and now, the momentum is going towards harmony. The noise of the pain of the war, it's a very loud few. They just happen to control most, if not all, of the cameras and microphones. So it seems very loud, but it's really just an echo chamber.
Mhm.
And the momentum is towards happiness. It is towards love. It is towards balance. And I see it because in the work that I do, I now see Middle America coming to the jungle. Middle America. I'm talking about people from Utah, from Illinois, right? I see people flying from Denmark to Colombia, people flying from Africa to Colombia to receive the sacred medicine, because there's a stirring in their
Mhm.
heart. Like you said, you felt an awakening, and you had this experience, and they feel an awakening, and they're seeking their experience. So the momentum is definitely going in that direction. And then, of course, there are those that are still haven't woken up yet to how cool and how amazing and how thrilling this could be, right? Because it's not like it happens overnight. We wake up and then we get to do the work. We get to release the judgment. We get to remember the work that we want to do. And then we get to build that. And then we get to experience that. And you're right. According to the ancient teachings, it is a cycle. We'll come into a time of peace and harmony, and eventually we'll fall out of that and we'll cycle back down and cycle back up. That's what the teachings offer
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. It makes sense to me that we're playing games and as I think about the games that I play with my kids, and we just keep rotating, it's kind of enough with Uno, or enough with shoots and ladders. It's just like, all right, let's keep going.
Right.
Some of them are a bit more aggressive, quote unquote, or we're wrestling with a dog, whatever, and some of them are like, let's just chill. We're ready for chilling. So it's interesting, and I think we get back to wholeness there, the whole experience.
The whole experience.
We're being loud. We're singing at the top of our lungs, and we're just super quiet, just snuggling.
Amen.
Which is great. I love all of it. I want to ask you a question that comes up quite a bit in my circles, and I lead a men's community. Um, and one of the questions that comes up is about food with the vibration. The big question about meat, is does eating meat, does that maintain someone's vibration lower if they're going to start eating vegetarian or vegan or pescatarian? But merging with certain consciousnesses of pigs and cows. There's a big question there. I wonder what's your take there on
Yeah.
ascending and eating animals.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I don't get that question nearly enough as I would like to. So when I speak from direct experience, and I've run the gamut, right? I've been vegetarian, vegan, raw foodist, carnivore, um, and here's what I've and in studying also with my grandparents, because this is a study. So one, the kosher laws are very good. Not just spiritually, well, spiritually, because when we look at the way that the animal is sacrificed traditionally, the kosher sacrifice, it was an honor in sacrificing the animal. When we look at the way that mass sacrificed meat is done today, there's an adrenal dump because of the fear that's induced, and I believe this is by design, because certainly it could be designed different, and the choice is not to do it that way. And that's part of the matrix, that's part of the construct, that's part of the game that's in play. So the sacrifice of the animal is very important, because that determines its final memories that go into the meat before its spirit and its body are separated. So when you ingest meat, it's important to do the best you can in having meat that was raised with love and that was sacrificed in love. Um, Meat and cheese together, meat and dairy, they don't mix. We know that from study, from nutritional studies, right? When you have dairy with your meat, it creates a putrefying effect of the meat, and it doesn't properly digest in the digestive system. Um, so there's a lot to that, right? Um, what I have found is that when we look at food, and I found this in my own body, uh, I was very animate on my vegetarian diet, um, and and it just wasn't working with the Yagé path. I was losing muscle mass, I was losing strength, and the an appetite. It was just one day I just woke up like it was crazy how I needed to eat meat. Like it was an overwhelming sensation, and I began to reintroduce red meat into my diet. My muscle mass came back, my strength came back. I now have it's organic chicken, farm raised, grass fed beef on occasion. Um, I like to get fish where it's still fresh, in places that it's available fresh. I also believe, and I've seen it in myself, that having a big portion of live food with my meat is really important. So the pairing of your food is really important as well. I like to pair my breakfast with avocado, greens, microgreens, arugula, and fruit. And then I like to pair my meat plates with a big salad, and then some legumes, like maybe not always, but sometimes like some beans or some garbanzo or some lentils. And then I do incorporate intermittent fasting, and then intermittent vegetarian dishes. So, or organic rices with mushrooms, with lots of veggies. Definitely avoid the tofu. Jackfruit. Love making jackfruit dishes as well. And so part of this also is relevant to your spiritual path, right? So, for example, if you truly are a yogi, then your body doesn't require massive muscle, right? Your path is limber, and very flexible. And the yogi diet is very much a vegetarian vegan diet. And that's really good for that path, right? On the Yagé path, where we're in the jungle, we're vomiting and we're literally shitting every month, that doesn't work. It doesn't sustain the body. We're running to the young jungle, we're chopping, where it's ceremonies that run 12, 16 hours, sometimes 18 hours. And I just found that the vegetarian diet doesn't work for that. Now, the fish is the most important part, then some poultry, and then red meat sparingly, with a strong concentration of live foods. And for me, that's worked fantastic.
It's really cool to hear. As you tied the amount of labor required in the path into the consumption. And I've had also went through all kinds of different paths, and at the moment, I eat red meat very sparingly. I eat more very intuitively, but mostly fish and chicken are my choices of protein that are animal protein. And I've had plenty of experiences on cactuses and different things when I'm like, this is just not the time for you to eat meat. Just a few months. I'm like, it just doesn't there's no it doesn't jive right now. It's just. And I told people I'm not labeling myself. I'm not choosing. I'm not. There's no judgment. I don't know when will be the day. And then there was a day I see the beef meatballs. I'm like, oh, this is the day. You know, and yeah, with a lot of grace and reverence. And it's been such a. There's so many texts, and there's some texts and more ancient texts that even say that once we stop slaughtering animals, that's when we stop slaughtering one another. Now, I don't know if it's totally there, because I do think, yeah, maybe if we're in a lighter density form, and there's things are shifting, and it's okay. We don't need that amount to be as laborious. Whether as you said, like we have gardens and food forests and such, and we have more live foods, and there's less labor to be had. So perhaps that stage that we'll get to. I don't know. I'm not sure if in my lifetime in this form, but it's interesting to me. It's an interesting question there of, is it necessary or is it not? And I think for doing specific work, there's the way I see it a bunch of times is as I bless the meat and as I give it a reverence, I'm like, you come join this consciousness. Wanna look at the world from this point of view, and with a mic and a camera, the chicken and the cows, like I embed them within me for the experience.
Blessing our food is super important. I don't want to sourcing your food from clean sources, right? Because when you bless your food, you're not necessarily removing the toxins. I mean, it depends on how strong. I mean, I don't think that my prayers remove toxins from food, but it raises the frequency. And like you said, it consciously unites my conscience with the conscience of that animal and its ancestors. And we give gratitude for that, especially as a family. My fiance and I, we are, it's so funny. You see us at a restaurant and we're blessing, we hold hands and we have our prayer, and it doesn't matter. We do it everywhere because wherever we're eating, we're blessed to have that food, and we want prayers over that food in gratitude. Now, the word slaughter is very interesting, right? Because what is it to slaughter animals? The way that we raise the way that we as a society choose to permit our food to be raised is slaughtering. It's a living death for a lot of these animals.
Mhm.
So, is the question really about how we move them from one transition to another in ritual and in sacrifice, and how we raise them and cultivate them? Because again, we're slaughtering them now by the way that they're raised in these huge pens, in these huge farms, with the hormones, with all the injections that are given to them, with the feed that's not their natural uh, food that they would naturally eat. We modify the genetics of our food. For example, I am a big opponent against farm raised salmon. When we look at the data, it's one of the most dangerous foods that we can eat. Um, I don't eat pork. Sometimes if I'm in the jungle for 4 or 5 weeks and there's a wild boar, that's the hunt that comes in. That's what's there to eat. Right? I'm going to eat that because there's nothing else. Right? But outside of that, I don't eat any type of pork meat. I went to a doctor recently. He said, "Hey, you have how much pork are you eating?" I'm like, "I don't eat pork." He's like, "Well, maybe a little bit here or there." I'm like, "No, like never." He's like, "Well, you have parasites that only come from swine." I was like, "That's interesting." And he did some more tests. He goes, "Do you eat farm raised salmon or farm raised trout?" I go, "Yeah, I eat both of them." He goes, "That's where it comes from." Turns out that in the feed that's prepared for the farm raised salmon and the farm raised trout, there's pork byproducts.
Wow.
And the parasites survive the entire, that's how strong these parasites are. They survive the entire process of being made into feed. They survive the digestive system of the fish, and then they come to multiply inside the human organism.
Parasites are quite the living creatures, and I've
Yeah.
seen, and it's very interesting. Their level of consciousness seems to be I guess a higher level of consciousness. They're so intelligent, and how they're making their ways into human bodies to take hold of so much consciousness. It's fascinating. When did you stop eating farm fish? I'm curious.
That day at the doctor's
Yeah.
office about almost 3 years ago.
Have you noticed a difference just in like mental, emotional, anything? I'm wondering, yeah, with the parasites, because it's a big topic.
Yeah, I did a parasite cleanse a few months after that, and I'm actually looking. I was just contemplating, I should do another parasite cleanse coming up pretty soon. Yeah, I love parasite cleanses. I love coffee enemas. I love doing liver and gallbladder flushes. All that stuff is really great.
It's phenomenal. Do you have any sources or things you can recommend while we're
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So there's a great book called The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush by Andre Moritz. And here he talks about everything from oil pulling to different types of cleansing techniques. And there's an entire section dedicated to flushing the liver and the gallbladder. So I definitely recommend that. For parasite cleanses, I think that's something that's worth studying and looking at. You have to see what's the cleanse that works for you, uh, because it's not just about the the thing that you use, it's about your availability to go through the steps required within that specific cleanse. So I would encourage everyone to look up parasite cleanses and different forms of doing it and what works for you. I think the company that I'm using is called Zuma, Zuma. They have a pretty good, it's vials that I can travel with. I just pour
Hmm,
them because I travel a lot.
hmm.
I think now I've been in 5 time zones in the last 4 weeks.
Wow.
right? And I've been in three three different countries in the last 4 weeks, 5 time zones, 3 countries.
Wow.
So, I have to find things that'll work with my schedule. And then for coffee enemas, this is something you definitely want to look at YouTube. You want to look at a couple of videos because there's nuances to a coffee enema that you want to make sure you do right. You want to make sure you have organic coffee. It can't be hot or you're going to cook yourself inside. So you want to make sure you have the protocol steps down before you venture off in that, but highly recommend.
Well, while on the topic, I will share some of my favorite protocols from Dr. Amanda Vollmer on coffee enemas. And you can add supplements, and apparently they're being really well absorbed. I don't recommend it as the first step in doing coffee enemas. There's certain positions and such. I have some friends who got me into this years ago, and it was not an easy process for me to do. Mostly just the dynamics of it, like to put it up there and like hold it in. It does work great, and yeah, it's fascinating how much knowledge you have on the human body, on really, a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm doing the spiritual stuff, and this is it's gonna cleanse me," and how much attention, intention, um yeah, it's beautiful to hear, how are you integrating the worlds.
It's three vehicles. See, on Earth, we were given three vehicles: the mind, the body, and the spirit. And we were given the mission to align them in a single pointed direction, right?
Mm.
So it's like we have three spaceships that are operating in different dimensions, and then we, as the pilot, have to learn how to navigate these in a single sphere of conscious and intention and move it in that direction. And while each ship impacts the other, because each ship is operating in its unique frequency or realm or dimension, whatever you want to call it, it has its unique set of protocols and requirements. So the way you change the oil for the body is not the change. That's not the same way you change the oil for the spirit, and it's not the
Mhm.
same way you change the oil for the mind. So to put it like in simple terms, so we really do. We really it would be a blessing for all of us to explore the integration, the alignment, and the management of our mind, body, spirit.
I love that analogy. I want to dive into your background. In your bio, it says of the, if I'm not mistaken, something around those lines of saying the least likely person to be,
A spiritual
shaman,
guide.
a spiritual guide. Meeting you in here. I mean, I'm thinking of the most likely, right? So obviously, I have no. It's as if, without knowing, right, the background, past. It's like you meet a person where they're at. I'm like, oh, sent from above. Perhaps an ascended master just dropped in here in this Carlos form. But I'd love for you to share, especially to inspire others on what's possible to get to the level of consciousness and purpose and alignment that you're living in. Enjoy.
I'd be happy to. It starts with a little boy who grew up in a Section 8 neighborhood in New Jersey. Section 8 is a welfare neighborhood. This little boy was raised in a very violent household. He was raped. Uh, he was introduced to incest. His father would send his mother to the hospital with a broken rib, a broken nose, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year. Uh, his father was a prolific career criminal who built a massive criminal empire, massive, from the US through the Caribbean through South America. And this little boy was being groomed to take over this empire. His mother introduced him to prayer at a very early age, very early, 4 or 5 years old. And this little boy, in his darkest times, in his most painful times, he would talk to God. He would talk to God. In his adolescence, the rage, the rebellion, he forgot. He forgot about God. And he drank deep, deep from the cup of gluttony, the cup of excess, the cup of lust. And he was really good at it. He excelled at this shit. I mean, if anybody was ever born to be bad, this little boy was really good at it. And one day, God said enough. And the empire began to crumble. And as everything crumbled around this now young man, a homing beacon went off. And it said, there's a God. Remember him. Come home. And one day, this young man found himself in a crack park, bowled over in tears, his eyes swollen. And he called out to God for the first time in a very, very, very long time. And something answered. And it said, you are the love of your creator. You are your creator's love. You are love. And then he really broke down and started crying. And when he was done crying, he got up and he decided to find God all over again. And 20 years later, here we are having this conversation. You, me, and that little boy.
Wow. May you share some of the family relationships that may have changed in those 20 years?
Yeah, sure. Super. So my father passed away about June 15th, 2018. Through work with a Polynesian Hawaiian prayer called the Ho'oponopono. I did this prayer every day for 3 years, and that radically transformed my internal relationship with my father. Today I love my father. I respect my father. I see him as the catalyst for me being here. If he had not chosen that path of darkness, I don't know that I would have had the mirror that I needed reflected back to me to choose the path that I'm on now. So deep healing with my grandmother was the person that raised me for years, his mother. And in my ancestral prayers every day, I talk to her, I reach out to her, I love her, I hug her. I'm grateful for the karmic balance that she brought into my life, because it's always happening for us and it never happens to us. And karmic accounting is a perfect accounting system. So whatever you're experiencing, there's something there to be said for your choice in that experience, because there are no victims in this universe. My cousin, God bless his soul, he was one of us that went inside. He got hit with federal time, and he calls it la escuelita, the school. And so when he was in school, which was the federal penitentiary, he discovered A Course in Miracles. And now we recently celebrated for the first time ever a family wedding, and the tears and the joy and the laughter and the dancing. It was an event that commemorated a 180-degree turn. His brother, my other cousin, who, Jesus, talk about a badass, hard motherfucker. This dude, I mean, wow, bro. He was a pit bull wrapped up in a Rottweiler, dressed up as a fucking Doberman pincher. This guy was just savage beyond savage. And he's there talking about God and talking about spirituality and talking about forgiveness and releasing shame and releasing the past. And to hear these men in my own life that through their own way, from our shared experience of pain, of guilt, of shame, found God, found love, found redemption, and now pour that into the world, pour it into their families. Yeah, brother, we turned it the fuck around.
Wow. Quite the story.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, you know transformations really firsthand. Sounds quite a lot, your own and your family, and it's really. Is your mother still alive?
My mother is still alive, bless her soul.
How's the relationship?
My mother is, God bless her, still very emotionally unavailable.
Hmm.
My mother is a devout Christian. Um, I love her. She's a beautiful woman. And she's healed a lot, right? She took on a lot. She took on a lot, and she's healed a lot. And there are times when she thinks I'm doing the devil's works. Like,
Interesting.
you know,
So interesting how she embedded in you the prayer and really planted the seeds of light. And obviously it takes some mounds and mounds of work um, to undo a lot of things in the psyche, in the emotional state, to be able to really see the truth, of who you become and the work you're doing. That's really interesting.
well, Yoni, that's why I am one of those people that tells people, look, if God found grace for me, there's grace for you. Like I tell the guys in my men's group, unless you walked into the VIP room with the goat, you've got nothing on me.
Hmm. So cool. Are you I'm wondering, do you have kids?
Yeah, yeah, I have three
Three kids.
with three different mothers.
Interesting. How close are you with the kids?
The youngest two very close, the eldest not so much. And that was never my intention. My intention and my prayers now that with my fiance now, I will finally be able to sit with one woman and raise one family together in love and in harmony. Um, that's just not the way it worked out with my other kids.
I
I
I
wish it had, brother, but it didn't. And so we go with that.
yeah. I'd love to hear about your vision and your new understandings. Let's say now that you have the vision for one woman, family, perhaps divine masculinity, anything you'd like to share with our audience here on those visions of a stable family unit. It's what sounds.
Yeah, when look, it's all about nature, right? And so I want to preface it with saying everything is free will. There's no judgment. I can only speak about what works for me.
Mm,
Okay. If and in my culture, we study nature. So if I go to a fertile soil, right, that's ready for planting, and in the same spot, I put in the seed of an apple tree, I put in the seed of an orange tree, and I put in the seed of a papaya tree. I'm not going to get much out of that, right? It's not that's not the design, right? The design says you have to put in one seed in one spot to get one tree that produces many fruit.
mm,
So for me, the design of the family is to have the mother and the father, and the mother and the father come together around the central pillar that is the creator, the great spirit. And here, through seed and soil, they come into union to produce the tree of the many fruit, which is their children, their grandchildren, their great grandchildren. And because that tree started with the creator, it flourishes with the creator. And then their children, in the memory of their fruit, already have the memory of the creator, have the memory of unity, of harmony, of family. So that's my vision, and I pray to God to bless it. I love being close to the land. I love farming. It's just funny, a Jersey boy. I have no idea where it came from, but man, the first time I put my hands in the soil and I started farming, I fell in love. For me, having a family where we can live close to our food, grow our food, be close to our water source, plant our food together, pray together, and support one another in inspiration, in sanctuary, in partnership and co-creation with our creator and ourselves. That for me is my vision for family.
It's beautiful. I'm curious, and I know I'm asking some personal questions, but is your fiance into similar work? Does she have a relationship with the Yagé traditions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So she, mm, mm, mm. This woman is a badass. So she leads a women's collective called Sacred Sisters. Um, and there's, I don't know, there's like 20 some thousand on Instagram. There's 20,000 plus strong on Instagram. The collective itself has 5,000 members inside of it.
Wow.
And she recently started her journey with plant medicine. So before she met me, she had already started working a little bit with the sacred mushroom. And then we've had the opportunity to sit together in Yagé ceremonies. And actually, because of her, we're here in Mexico now on our way to visit a curandera, a female healer who is a master in the path of the sacred mushroom. I would never have been here without her. And so it's because of her that we're now in transit. We actually leave. We're Mexico City now, and we leave to the mountains tomorrow.
Very cool.
So not only is she involved, she has become a catalyst and a bridge for my own evolution with the plant medicine. I'm grateful for that.
It's beautiful. I want to ask you one more question on relationships, because this one comes often, and there are men in my community. Actually, 2 of them got engaged recently. Some of them are single. They're divorced. A high percentage of divorced, and some men that have not found their women yet. And to perhaps to give some words on finding the right mate, or knowing when the attraction is there. One of the things that I speak about is about my queen, but one of the things really that I found in our relationship is that there's a drive in me to help her expand, and she helps me expand as a person. There's a lot of love, there's attraction, there's a lot of grace, but the expansion, to me, there's some sort of contract going on in there, and I wonder what's your take there, as I'm talking to different men specifically.
Brother, 100 on what you just said. My prayer was and continues to be for the woman that serves my highest purpose, for the woman whose highest purpose I serve.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think, again, so out of all the things that I do, I don't do relationship advice, because I'm still learning relationships. Right? I'm still learning, and my prayer is that this relationship be the one in its full evolution. So the prayer in the relationship is for my highest purpose and for her highest purpose. May only the person that serves the greatest design of the Creator, that serves my highest purpose, be the one that is brought forward to me. May I be brought forward only to the one whose highest purpose I serve in their mission and in their design from the Creator. And may all other things fall away. Now, that said, we have to be willing to face the test. And what do I mean by that? We have old hangups, we have old patterns, old beliefs. And it's happened to me where I have found a woman that seemed very, at first, right? Well, very aligned, spiritual, family oriented. Checked off a lot of the boxes. You spend a little bit of time together, and then you find out, oh, there's red flags for me, right? For my way. Now, the question is, am I willing to let that go, already knowing it doesn't serve me? Or am I going to once again stay attached out of XYZ old pattern? I have found that we have to be willing to let go of what doesn't serve us in order to make space for what does. And the universe will test you on that. The universe will test you on whether or not you've learned the lesson of, hey, this is not the person for you. You've seen these behaviors before. They don't serve you. It's not a judgment against them. Are you going to stay in the XYZ pattern, or are you going to let them go and then mature, evolve past the test, so to speak, and then make room for that next person? The other thing that I have found to all our single brothers, and look, I'm not saying that this is for everyone. Okay. I wanted to try something different, and because of my spiritual path, it just made sense to have an abstinence of sexual communion for at least a determined time. It doesn't mean a lack of intimacy, but there's something magical and powerful that is created in the prayer of when the vagina envelopes around the penis. That act of coming together like that, eye to eye, face to face, heart to heart, is very powerful. And in that moment, unspoken contracts are created.
Hmm.
And I have found that in a space where the ground isn't set, where the ritual isn't honored, over time, this energy comes back to bite you in the ass, so to speak. So having a reverence for the prayer of sex and having an accord of when the time comes, what is that time in our relationship? And I have found that the more you put it off, the better off you are, because there's 1,000 ways to make love to a woman, right? You should explore 999 of them, and sex should be number 1,000.
Hmm.
And there's something special that comes in that. And then what happens is when it doesn't work out, it's a much cleaner break. It's a much easier release. And when it does work out, it becomes a celebration, not just a moment of physical attraction, but we're calling in spirit. We're inviting God into the union. And now it's a conscious choice, and it's a preparation for our meeting.
Can
Yeah,
you? I love that. Can you recommend some ways to connect of the other ones before getting to the 10,000 to inspire
oh
some
my
people?
God. Yeah, bro. Like cooking together,
Mm.
taking a shower together, bathing one another in ritual,
Mm.
right? Painting together, dancing together, creating.
Mm.
Because ultimately, sex is a practice or an achievement of the art of creation or the magic of creation, right? It's how ultimately we create life on earth. So everything that's a micro expression of creation. The other day, my fiance and I, we built a makeshift sauna, and so we were measuring PVC pipes and cutting them. Oh, we had such a great time. We had such a blast. We discovered we love building shit together.
Mm.
You know, cleaning the house together. Oh my God, dude! Bringing honor and ceremony into the aesthetics of your home, right? So nothing is small, right? Going to the beach together, walking in nature together, sitting instead of always watching TV together, sit there and talk, have a conversation. And if you don't know what to talk, there's a great game called the and.
Yeah.
It has little prompts. They're awesome. They're awesome. Because sometimes we don't know what to talk about. So you pull out a few cards and it starts the conversation flow, right? Planting a garden together. What are your life projects, right? Supporting one each other in your projects as individuals, in your projects as a family. All this, right? And intimacy, right? Intimacy, exploring each other's bodies, massages, right? One of the things that I always challenge my guys on is, when was the last time you gave your partner a massage, a full body massage, without the expectation of something in return.
It's a good one.
When was the last time that you caressed her breast, warmed her thighs, went down on her, gave her an orgasm, and left it at that, and then cuddled? There's a lot of intimacy to be explored without sex, brother. Praying together.
Those are great. Those are awesome. I'm so excited to share these, not only with the audience, and also very specifically with a bunch of people that I know. And I wanted just to touch and bring some of my perspective on the sexual intercourse, and as you said, like to postpone it, in that kind of rush to get, for a lot of people, the thrill and the stress release, especially in the Western world, of that, the validation of being loved. Oh yeah, got in the pants. There's a master that passed away 40 years ago, Master Omran Maidanov, that I've read some of his books, and he discusses relationships similar to fruit, that we wouldn't necessarily go and or say another source of food. You would examine: is it a clean source? Did you wash it? Did you handle it well? But people rush into relations like, oh yeah, that's sounds good. Oh, let's go. And then there's a quantum entanglement, and in part of what you're talking about, how hard now that eye to eye, that those deeper eyes were in communion. And now actually all realized, like, oh, there was not a great match in here. I didn't make sure there's a match. I'm gonna say, I'm not even called, but the purification process of preparing and getting the resonance, as I'm thinking about the food that I'm eating, that we're resonating. Yeah, right. We're doing the walks in nature, we're painting, we're cleaning the house. It's and then celebrating that union together. It's really, I really love how you brought it in such simplicity, and with so many examples to inspire others to do so. It's really, it touched my heart, and I think it's gonna bear many fruits for many people. So I want to really thank you and praise you for bringing this ideas. Yeah, thank you. I want to ask you, now that we're coming to a close here, where can people work with you? Is there a website? What are the retreats, opportunities to expand? And
Yeah, brother.
please.
So the easy way is on Instagram and Facebook. It's Carlos Duran Live. On YouTube, it's Carlos Duran Live. But if you just want to shoot me a message, slide into my DM, Carlos Duran Live. Drop me a note. I'll get back to you. We have very powerful men's retreats that we do in the jungle, and you can get all the information there and book a free call with me at savageencounter.com. savageencounter.com. If you're a veteran, man or woman veteran from any nation state that in any capacity offered military service, we have a veterans retreat that we're doing twice a year and hopefully 3 times next year. And that's operationpurify.com, operationpurify.com. And there you can get the lowdown on that retreat. We also have scholarships that we get for our veterans to help them cover the cost of the retreat. And at operationpurify.com, you can book a call with Ryan Carey, former Canadian football leaguer and former veteran of the Afghan War, Canadian Legion. So we have that. And then for my sisters that are listening to this, that want to go deeper into the power of their womb, the power of their own divine feminine essence, I would encourage you to work with my grandmother. And we have a website set up for her. It's called mywombhealing.com, mywombhealing.com. And there you can sign up for the newsletter, and we'll keep you informed when the next available workshop is available with my grandmother, Yarisa. And that's that, brother. If you're listening to this and you want to make a donation to the Veterans Program, we have HEAL, Heaven and Earth Ancestral League, because everybody wants to be part of a league. And that's our 501c3 nonprofit. And you can reach out to me on Instagram, Carlos Duran Live, and I'll get you the information on that. Yoni, thank you so much for the portal, the platform that you're creating. I had the opportunity to review many of the episodes that you've already published, And wow, brother, I was moved, I was touched, and I was honored to be given the opportunity to share with you. You are truly a man of grace. You are truly a man of art and creation. You are truly a man of God. May you and your family always be blessed with excellent health, excellent wealth, and abundance and prosperity for your minds, your bodies, and your spirits. Thank you for the work that you're doing, Yoni, in this world, because it does make a fucking difference, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my brother.
Oh, thank you, Carlos. This definitely warmed my heart on another level and expanded and blown my heart and mind with this whole conversation. What a gift that you've given me, the audience, and the world, walking the path that you're walking. I really, lots of respect, lots of gratitude, and lots of awe in being in your presence now virtually, and hopefully in person very soon.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate you. Until the next time. Aho.
God bless you all. Aho.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope this conversation has supported your journey to wholeness. For full show notes and to explore all my projects, visit yonihavana.com. If you found the show helpful, please leave a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support helps spread awareness, healing, and awakening to others. Much love and gratitude.